Initially, I started my military career in the Army. I was a paratrooper at 3 RAR in Sydney, and I basically joined the Army to get away from a life that wasn't really going in the direction that I wanted it to. Now, as a clearance diver, there's 4 main roles that we do. There's MTO, or Maritime Tactical Operations. In this role, you're in a black wetsuit, you dive on an oxygen rebreather mounted on your chest, you have a rifle on your back, pistol on your leg, and a backpack full of tools and explosives. Now, this is a clandestine part of the clearance diving where you're swimming up to a couple of hours underwater in the middle of the night to possibly place explosives on ships, wharfs, clear beaches, things like that. The second one is MCM, or Mine Countermeasures. Now, I'm actually instructing this course at the moment, and the whole role of it is basically to search out and dispose of mines. The third one is UBDR, or Underwater Battle Damage Repair. Now, in this role, this is where you do a lot of the real work, because there's not always mines out there to find, there's not always enemy out there to blow up, but there's always ships that need work, and there's always damage that needs fixing. So any tools that you can imagine on the surface, we use them underwater. So giant chainsaws, welding guns, broco cutting guns, explosive nail guns, all of that sort of stuff. It's great. And when I worked with those guys, I did things like remove the giant propellers from warships, remove and change out auxiliary propulsion units from mine hunters. And I even had the opportunity to dive to 57 metres and film the lost Japanese midget submarine that's off the coast of Sydney from World War II. So a very rewarding job. Now, the last one, which you may have seen in the movie Hurt Locker, is EOD. As explosives experts under the water, we also are on land. So we get deployed in Afghanistan. I rolled over the side, I had my black wetsuit on, a pair of fins, and that's it. It's just kicking along on my back, and I looked over my left shoulder just to make sure I was going in the right direction. And before I turned back, I felt an almighty whack in my right leg. I didn't really think too much of it. It didn't hurt. I just figured the boys got too close in the boat and I didn't hear it, or a bit of driftwood hit me. And then I looked down, and there was a massive shark's head attached to me. Now, in a bit of shock for a couple of seconds, I sat there and went, what the hell do I do now? And I think he was staring at me going, can I eat it? And I went, I've seen Discovery Channel, go for the eye. But my hand wouldn't move. And I looked down, and I saw a line of teeth all across my wrist, all across my leg. The lips were pulled back, the gums were showing, and I went into panic stations. And I went, right, left hand. The shark had me on such an angle that I couldn't reach the eyeball. So I tried to push it off, and my hand just slipped straight off it, like wet, slippery concrete. So I cocked back, and I punched it in the head. And it did nothing. I think it just upset it. It pissed it off a little bit, because then it started shaking me. Took me underwater, and I thought that was it. I'm dead. Then it brought me up to the surface. I took a gasp of air, and it took me back under and started shaking me all around again. I was basically a rag doll in this monster's mouth. All of a sudden, I was free. I popped to the surface, and I saw the shark's tail splashing out in front of me, and I started to swim away. And I looked up, and my whole hand was gone. It just finished at my wetsuit. I was laying in hospital for 9 weeks. I had a lot of time to think, and I've always had a bit of an Australian she'll be right attitude. It'll come good. But I knew I was in a pretty bad place. I knew I couldn't grow my leg back or grow my hand back, even though when I was on ketamine I tried. But I had a lot of time to think. I had to work out what I was going to do. I figured I had a great life before this. I was travelling the world, diving in tropical locations, hanging out with my mates, drinking beer, getting paid to train, living on Bondi Beach. Why would I want to give that up? So I decided not to. The day after I had my leg removed, in the afternoon, the doc came by and found me doing this in my bed. Understandably, he was not very impressed. He said I could be shearing the flesh away from the bone and busting my stitches, and I was like, Doc, I'm on drugs, I can't feel it. So I just kept going. I went back to work. teaching and instructing and scaring the crap out of the new trainees when I sneak up on them underwater. But to get back to work was a really, really big thing. Never undervalue someone's desire to get back to an honest job. For me, that was the end goal to all of that training. And then when I got back to work, I set more goals. Initially, I got asked to go and talk to a group of kids with cancer. And I was just thinking, how do you say no to kids with cancer? So I rocked up and I met these amazing children. There was a 19-year-old kid there, both of his hands and both of his legs gone from meningococcal. And I'm trying to inspire them. I walked away from that inspired by these young kids, knowing that I've got nothing to worry about. My life's good. I've got a job, I'm healthy, I'm fit, great friends, nothing to worry about. So those little kids drive me forward whenever I think about them.